Good morning. Welcome to DNA. If you're new here, this is the time you go grab a coffee. And let's take a moment and let's sip on that. Let's get into this. I'm taking you back, and I mean way back. We are going to go back to the pre-1980s. Back then, there was one way to get music. Only one. Predominantly on the radio. That was it. Music came through a speaker, usually sitting on a shelf. And if you wanted to hear your favorite song, well, you waited, like everybody else. You just waited. You went about your day, and eventually, your song would come on the radio. Maybe your car, maybe your home radio. And when it did, you stayed with it. Yes, you did. You listened. You didn't skip it. You didn't replay it. Didn't have that option back then. And you didn't burn it, and you didn't burn it out. It was simple. It was an experience. A good one for the time. Music wasn't endless back then. It was everywhere. And here is the important part. At that time, radio wasn't just a way to hear music. Radio was music. It had the audience. It had the advertisers. It had the power. If the radio didn't play, you didn't even know the song existed. That was the system. And nobody, and I mean nobody, questioned it back then because there was nothing else to do. Radio decided what broke, who made the hit. Radio decided the latest hits. Radio decided who faded away, when it was played. They were the powerhouse of everything. Music was sound, and sound lived on the radio. But then something changed. Something big changed, and it changed forever. Now we're going back to the early 1980s, because if we go back to 1981, radio was still dominant, still confident, still in control. And then a new way of getting music showed up. Your song was no longer just on the radio. Wow, it was on television now. Amazing. The idea had the name. It was MTV. At the time, it felt like the best thing since sliced bread. And it changed everything, and I mean everything. I was a very young child at the time, and it changed music forever. It changed how we experienced music. It's changed how it looked at music. And now you don't even just listen to music, you actually saw it. You could see the singers. You could see your favorite singer, the band, the whole entire crew together. You could see how they moved, how they dressed, how they carried themselves, how they danced on stage. It felt like you were actually at a concert and came into your living room. Music stopped just being sound out of a box on a radio on a shelf somewhere. It became an experience, a good one. MTV just didn't launch quietly either. No, they didn't. Their very first video it ever played was Video Killed the Radio Star. Not the radio hit, the first video. Imagine that. Much music launches with the first video saying it killed the radio star. Kind of made some intent there, didn't it? Fits perfectly. Fits perfectly. It sent a message. Music was no longer just something you heard. Nope, not anymore. It had a face. It had a movement. And boy, was it a big movement. And for a while, it looked like MTV was going to take over everything. Everything. The idea, spoken or unspoken, was that music television would replace the radio someday. Why wouldn't it? It had sound and visuals. It had personality. It had presence. Music videos ran all day long. Artists didn't just release songs anymore. Now they're actors. Now they're singers. They arrived. And through the 1980s and into the early 1990s, MTV dominated. Big time. This was the golden era, and I loved it. Music videos mattered. Premieres mattered. Countdowns mattered. Do you remember the New Year's Eve countdown every year? Wasn't it great? Yes, music became visual culture. But here's the part that matters the most. Radio didn't die. Radio never needed your eyes. Radio lived in cars and at work on the commercial radio. And it also lived in motion. Radio fit life. MTV demanded attention, and attention is fragile. So instead of replacing the other, they competed. Radio delivered competition. MTV delivered impact. For years, they lived side by side. The late 1980s into the 1990s was the peak. But slowly, something started to shift. MTV experienced with less music and more shows. They chose reality and program and lifestyle over videos. Music videos started moving later and later. They didn't vanish, not all at once. They were edged out. And by the early 2000s, MTV was not about music anymore. By around 2010, much music videos were almost gone entirely. The channel still existed, but the purpose has changed. MTV didn't collapse, it faded. And then something else entered the picture. Around 2010, YouTube had become a major force. Now music lived in three places, not one, not two, but three. First was the radio. Second, the television. Third, on-demand video. This was a game changer. You didn't need a schedule anymore. You didn't even need to wait. If you wanted songs, you searched it. No DJs, no commercials, no none of that. And if you wanted the video, it was there instantly. Perfect. Game changer. That changed the balance again. MTV depended on attention. YouTube depended on access. And access won by a long shot. But even that wasn't the final shift. No. Three players dominating. Because after YouTube streaming arrived, what came next? Now music didn't even need video. It lived in apps, in playlists, in algorithms. Music became portable, personal, and constant. And suddenly, we had four avenues of music: radio, the original, television, MTV, YouTube, and streaming, each one serving a different role. Radio stayed alive because it fit the movement. Streaming took over convenience. YouTube became the visual archive, and music television slowly stepped out of the picture. And here we are now. MTV, the channel that once changed music forever, has closed that chapter. What started as a revolution became a memory. And what's left over now are three survivors: radio, YouTube, and streaming. Each one is still very prominent, and each one is standing very tall right now. Each one is still evolving, and it's still worth asking the question, which one will last after all? Which one adapts again? I've got my ideas, pretty sure you do too. Which one fades next? Because history tells us this much: music never disappears. Not with AI, not with anything. It just moves, it shifts, it finds a new way into your home and into the people that want to listen to it. And that's what we watch. That's what we track. And that's what we'll keep talking about here. We're DNA. We'll be watching this, and we'll let you know when and as things change. We'd like to thank MTV for the great years you provided. Keep your coffee warm. We will see you next Sunday, 10 a.m. At this point in time, I'd like to thank MTV for all the years they've given us. It was so exciting in the 80s to be there, to watch it, to live it. Thank you, MTV. Thank you for all your time. Thank you for all you brought. Thank you for YouTube. Thank you for streaming. In the meantime, keep your coffee warm. We'll see you Sunday at 10 a.m. Cheers.